So I need to sew up these shoulders on this sweater, and as you can see I have multicolored stripes that have to be brought together and lined up and sewn together, but I'm going to be using this yarn that I have left over from the other parts of my sweater. How to make it not visible? Well, I don't know if I'm doing the right thing, but it works for me. So I'll show you the other side, which I've already done. And you can see here, I haven't blocked it or sort of steamed it or ironed it or anything, but there you have the seam on that side, and the yarn, the purple yarn, is almost invisible. It looks really, really nice. So I started a little off the shoulder. I'm trying to stay within these marks because I keep going off camera, off the plane. So I started below here so that you can see it's a little curved because I don't want the shoulder to kind of stick out. I mean, it's just a little bit of it's not really a sleeve, it's just a t-shirt. So one of the key things that you want to do as you go along is recognize you're going to, wherever you have a knit stitch that you can knit into, that's a good thing to grab, like these things here. Sometimes it's not easy, like on the curve here, you're decreasing, and so you have to kind of straddle a second row. In the garter rows, these garter rows, you just pick up the one garter row. You don't pick up each part of the garter stitch, the front and the back. But on the knit stitches, you can pick up both, and that way when you get to the garter rows, it works out. So what I do is identify the edge stitch can be a little bit raw. I like doing the edge stitch like that because it's nice and stable, but it's tough to pick that up and make it look nice when you're seaming. So what I do is identify the row that has some nice stitches. So like here's the edge stitch, here are the nice stitches. On the other side, here you see you've got an edge stitch, tuck that away, and beyond that you have a nice row of stitches that you can sew through. Now the problem is if you're not very careful when you're actually knitting the parts of this sweater and you're careless on the edges like I was here, and this one was awfully tight, makes it a little more difficult. So if you can be careful as you're turning from a knit row to a purl row or right row side to a wrong side, not to pull them too tightly, because these will become both your edge stitches for the sleeve and also the stitches that you will have to sew to get your shoulder seam. So then basically all I do is go across. It's a pretty basic, simple, straightforward stitch. So you can see I've already done it here. So now I'm going to come back across, and so here's the second stitch in that nice row, and here's the second stitch in this row. Then I'll go to the third stitch in this row and go across and find the third stitch in this row. Now that, I think I've got that wrong. Here we go. Here's the third stitch in that row. I'm a little nearsighted. Here's the fourth stitch in the pink row, in the knit row, and here's the fourth stitch on the other side. So now I'm just going to pick up the garter stitch here, and I'm going to pick up the garter stitch here. And now I'll continue on to the next pink row. The nice thing about this is that if you have a row that's a little bit longer, a side that has a color stretched out a bit, doing this you can help ease the excess in so that it doesn't look like it's a little too loose. So once again, I'm identifying the good stitches on this row, being nearsighted as I am. And this one, I think I'm going to go with these ones here. Looks a little weird. Maybe I'll stick with this one. So I'll move over till I find a good row. And then I'll come back across. And this one here is an awfully nice row. I think I was a little more careful at the beginning. In the end, I was in a hurry. But that's okay, we'll make it work. Stitch number 2. Oops. I love these curved needles, they make it a lot easier. And here's stitch number 2, stitch number 3, stitch number 3, oops, there we go, stitch number 4, and across to stitch number 4 over here. And then once again, just pick up a garter row stitch, come back across to a garter row stitch, and you can see that it's coming together. It's not going to look the way it would if you were sewing up sides where your knitting was straight, because here you are turning and decreasing or turning and increasing to get the diagonal effect. There's always increases and decreases, but for the most part they look pretty cool. And the purple yarn tends to disappear. It doesn't really show up. I hope this helps. If you have any questions, feel free to get in touch with me through Seawall Fibers, and thank you for watching.